He just choked the game. Wow.
Oh no! Oh, why did I make that move? His pawn is just gonna shove itself down my throat now. Now I'm stuck in the middle of the board, single and lonely, while Hikaru has a brand new sexy queen. I am just so jealous right now. Man, look at this guy's smug face above me. He beat some amateur like me and he's so happy. Come on, man. But that's okay, because I was dealing with five-time US champion, number two in the world, best, fastest chess player of all time, Hikaru Nakamura.
Hikaru is one of 3 Americans among the top 15 players in the world and one of the fastest. What does it mean to be the best blitz player?
So blitz basically means you have 5 minutes or less for the whole game. And so when it gets quicker and quicker, I tend to be the best, if not the best in the world.
Alright, so here is my game analysis against Hikaru. So he starts off with e4. I just respond with e5, keeping everything symmetrical. He develops his knight out, so I do the same. I develop my knight out. He develops his bishop. I develop my bishop. Everything into the middle of the board. Now he makes room for his bishop to come out. I do the same thing. And so then he develops his next piece, his knight. I do the same. I also develop my knight, keeping everything symmetrical, everything in the middle. Now he plays h3 because he wants to make sure that I can't move my bishop here and pin his queen, or pin his knight to his queen. So I move my bishop somewhere else into the middle. He moves his bishop back, and because like now if I take it, he'll take it with this pawn and it'll open up his rook. So I just castle, but now he can pin me. So now my knight is pinned to the queen. I try to push him back, but he just maintains the pin. So I move my knight back to try to contest the pin. And he takes advantage of me moving my knight back by pushing in the center. So I take, and he takes back. And this is where I make a mistake. So I move my knight here, and the idea is that finally something else is defending the knight, so I'm free to move the queen out of the way, getting out of the pin. But by moving my knight, but I didn't realize that he's attacking my bishop twice, and I'm only defending it once, so I'm in trouble. So he takes it, and if I take it back like this, then his knight will take, forking my pieces, and that's just game over. So instead of taking the bishop, I took this knight first. And now Hikaru makes a mistake, which lets me back into the game. So he takes this knight. What he should have done is take this bishop, take this pawn with his bishop, and it's check. So I'm forced to take back. Then he can come back and clean this bishop up. And he's basically took this pawn over here for free. And now my knight's still threatened. My king is weak. I'm dead. But no, he didn't do that. He took the knight, and as you can see, it's back to even. And so now what I can do is this bishop is under fire. So I take this piece with check. That's the important part. It's check. So he has to take it back, and then that gives me the chance to clean this guy up. And I can't take it with the knight, because then my queen will die because of this bishop. So then I take it back with the knight, and things are back even. Crazy. I had like 20 seconds to figure all that out. So after I take his bishop, he takes my knight. And now this forces me to take back, and this opens up my king, and now all my pawns are socially distanced, and my king is open, so not the best. So he castles his king, and I try to move my king off of the open line, but that wasn't really the best move because now his next move attacks this pawn with the queen. So I have to move my king up. I could have just done that in one move. Sorry. So he moves his queen back to attack this other pawn. So I move it out of the way, pushing it, trying to trade off my weak pawn for a strong pawn. Then he moves his queen to put some extra pressure on it. And I cannot just take this pawn, because if I take this pawn, he'll check my king and then he'll win this pawn, messing up all those pawns. So I just try to move my queen there. So he takes the pawn, I move my queen to the side where it'll be threatened. Then he's able to get his rook centralized, which is really bad because my rooks aren't doing anything. I try to attack his king. He moves his rook up into the game. I try to put pressure on his pawn, but he just defends it pretty easily. And so then I try to get my other rook to attack his king, but this is not going to work because he just closes down this open line I have. I should have probably moved my rooks to the center and tried something instead of just lining them up here. So I just have a few seconds left. I try to just get the queens off the board, and he trades it, but after the trade, now his rook is open. And so I'm trying to defend against his rook. If he comes down, I can push my pawn up and then my rook will defend everything. But he pushes my rook out of the way. So I have to get my rook out of the way. Then his rook comes in and it's pretty hopeless after this. So I just try to threaten his rook. He moves his rook away. I just try to make a threat on his pawns here, but there's no way to save this. He checks me here. I have to move my king away. He moves his rook back, and then I make the final blunder of I take this pawn, and now all he has to do is check my king with this pawn here. So it's better to check with the pawn, because if he moves his rook up, then my king will come up and block his pawn for a bit. But he checks with the pawn, and so I have to move over. Then his rook will check me. Then my king has to step up, and then he gets a queen. No way to stop it. And that was GG. So let's go back to see what went wrong. Man, look at this guy's smug face above me. He beat some amateur like me and he's so happy. Come on, man. So I think where it got out of hand was, first of all, like this pawn, instead of pushing it and like opening up the king to these checks, I should have just maybe kept things solid and moved the queen there. See, like that would have made me even. So I need to work on being aware of opening up my king a little bit and just keeping things solid if I'm weak on that side of the board. And then the next thing was, okay, after he takes it, what did I accomplish from moving my queen from here to here? I guess I was trying to get my queen over here to attack his king, but Hikaru is not going to fall for some dumb checkmate where my queen randomly gets in with his queen already patrolling that area. So I shouldn't have wasted a move on moving my pawn. The computer says I should have just centralized my rook. Like, this rook in the corner isn't doing anything, move it here. And then even if he takes the pawn, the fact that my rook is in a better position says that like the game is still completely even though I'm down that pawn. You know, the pawn's not as strong with my rooks being the dominant ones. We saw that his rook is what came in and caused all that havoc at the end. And then I could have tried to aggressively target this pawn and win it back. But instead, I waste a move with my queen, let his rook occupy the dominant file. Like his rook has the open line. And then to counter it, instead of countering it, I should have just countered his rook. And see, like, it's still closer to just me being down a pawn. I should have just directly countered his rook. Instead of doing that, I move my rook here again, just trying to put pressure on his king when that's not possible. And I move my rook to... I didn't develop my bad rook in the corner, and I just moved my rook where it's just going to get blocked. So he's able to move his rooks forward. I move my rook forward to attack this pawn, but now he can defend it with his rook. And then now I bring my other rook just to attack this point, but he can just shut it all down. So my rooks are in the corner. Queen, I trade the queens. My rooks are in the corner, allows his rook to maneuver around and into the game. And then the final mistake is, instead of playing here, what I should have done is push this pawn first. Now this guy is shut down. And then if he came down here, then I can't actually block like I originally planned. Because that was my whole idea of moving my rook here, is to block. But he can move my rook to the side. What I should have done is move this pawn up instead of the rook, so then I can block it. And I'm still losing, but I'm not dead as before. And I can later just target all of his socially distanced pawns in the corner, and I would have had a chance. But yeah, no. Instead, he's able to push me off, and see it goes from +1 in his favor to +5, because now his rook gets here. And at that point, there's nothing I can do. As soon as he took this pawn, and it has like this pawn guarded from behind, there's nothing I can do. And I could have tried to held on and make it a little more complicated if, like, instead of taking this pawn here like I did, I should have just moved my king. Now, you know, he doesn't have that forceful check, and I'm at least blocking him for a little while here, and I can move this rook here, and so he can't just check me off, and so that would have given me a chance. But I mean, my pieces would all be stuck guarding this pawn. It was basically over. The main thing was making sure his rook didn't get opened up, instead of me just moving my rooks to the side where they weren't doing anything. So, alright. Thanks for watching, everyone. Crazy game.